From the 11th to the 17th century, India held immense wealth, but its political map was deeply fragmented. This made it a prime target for a relentless wave of Turkic, Afghan, and Mongol invaders who arrived from Central Asia seeking gold and territory. This chaotic period led to the violent establishment of the Delhi Sultanate in 1192, but the throne in Delhi was essentially a brutal game of musical chairs, with 5 different dynasties violently overthrowing one another to seize power. Their economy relied heavily on sheer extraction. They funded their conquests through village plunder, the destruction of temples and learning centers, and the jizya, a strict, heavy tax explicitly levied on non-Muslim citizens. Taking a throne with a sword is one thing, but trying to hold an entire subcontinent strictly by bleeding its citizens dry creates a permanent, exhausting cycle of rebellion. Enter Muhammad bin Tughlaq. He recognized the need to project power and control across this massive territory, but his actual administration was a disaster. First, he decided to shift his capital from Delhi deep into the south. He forced the entire population of the city to march over 1,000 kilometers to Daulatabad. It was a catastrophic policy that caused massive suffering and widespread death before he eventually reversed it. This diagram illustrates his next terrible misstep. To fix the economy, Tughlaq introduced a token copper currency meant to hold the value of silver and gold. The citizens immediately counterfeited it. Fake coins flooded the market, and the economy crashed. Good ideas paired with terrible execution are lethal. Raw imperial ambition doesn't secure an empire. It actively accelerates its collapse. Looking at this map, you can see the direct result of the Sultanate's heavy taxation and instability. The borders shrink as massive, organized resistance pushes back from all sides. In the north, the Mewar kingdom physically defied the Sultanate. Led by Rana Kumbha, they constructed the massive, winding defensive walls of Kumbhalgarh Fort to successfully block further northern attacks. Meanwhile, starting in 1336, the Vijayanagara Empire in the south figured out a completely different strategy for state building. Under their greatest ruler, Krishnadevaraya, they generated immense state wealth by integrating into global trade networks. Specifically, they heavily imported high-quality Portuguese war horses to supply a dominant military. That massive influx of trade wealth funded great governance, cultural patronage, and immense architectural projects in their capital city of Hampi. Vijayanagara proved a vital point. Economic prosperity and active global trade create far more regional stability than the Sultanate's strategy of endless plunder. By 1526, a new force arrived in northern India and reset the entire geopolitical board. Babur, the founder of the Mughal Empire. At the First Battle of Panipat, his forces faced the remnants of the Delhi Sultanate. He was heavily outnumbered, but he held a massive tactical advantage. This artwork shows the specific technological revolution Babur brought to the subcontinent. By strategically deploying field cannons, matchlock guns, and gunpowder, Babur rendered the traditional defensive tactics of massive infantry blocks and charging war elephants completely obsolete. The Mughals now possessed the ultimate military hardware to conquer the territory. But as history had repeatedly shown, taking the throne requires weapons. Holding it requires a radically new administrative approach. The blueprint for that approach came during a brief pause in Mughal rule. An Afghan leader named Sher Suri ousted Babur's successor and rapidly solved the subcontinent's biggest underlying issue. In his short reign, Suri constructed a massive functional road network, completely overhauled the tax code, and standardized the currency. Suri proved a critical point to future conquerors. A lasting empire runs on reliable roads and standardized coins, not just gunpowder. Emperor Akbar was the ruler who finally synthesized all of these scattered lessons into a single cohesive governance model. Akbar actively shifted toward integration. He abolished the hated jizya tax and opted instead to form strategic, binding political alliances with his former Rajput rivals. His core philosophy, sul-e-kul, meaning absolute peace with all, extended beyond simple military dominance. By inviting scholars of all faiths to debate and appointing former enemies to high office, Akbar actively tied local interests to the central crown, quieting centuries of regional friction. These policies resulted in a vast, culturally unified empire. The scale and permanence of his administration are perfectly captured in the grand, lasting architecture of cities like Fatehpur Sikri. The era's ultimate lesson was that a diverse geography cannot be held through conquest alone. Long-term stability required a mix of overwhelming military force and deep political inclusion, maintaining a sword in one hand and an offer of peace in the other.